You're listening to the First Fight Podcast, home of the people and stories behind the fight. I'm Jennifer Anderson, the host and creator. My goal is to give you a peek into the remarkable world of fighting and create a platform for fighters to tell their stories. In each episode of this series, a different fighter shares a transformative story of their first time. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I have Kyle Cerminara on. He is a Division I NCAA All-American wrestler. He also competed on the U.S. national wrestling team. While his time competing professionally in MMA was brief, he continues to help coach and train with high-level MMA fighters. He also happens to be my friend and former guest, Caitlin Chukagian's husband. So we talk about his mindset going into fighting and how that ultimately led him away from competing in MMA. And we also talk about the wrestler's advantage in the sport, as well as the importance of a separation between being a coach and a husband. I enjoyed talking with Kyle, so enjoy our episode. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So you fought in the past as well. You had a few pro fights. Tell me how you got started.
Well, obviously, like you said, I wrestled my whole life. And then when I was done kind of just finishing up as a competitive wrestler, I got into coaching. And I was coaching at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And I kind of was still wanted to wrestle a little bit, but I felt like I had just left the Olympic Training Center. So I was like, well, if I couldn't make the team at the Olympic Training Center, I always was second or third at the U.S. Open, then it would be really hard to make it training out of Penn, but I still had a competitive desire. So then there was a couple fighters who would stop by the room, the UPenn room every now and then. And I became kind of friends with them. We would help them with the wrestling and stuff. And then one day I went with one of them. His name was he was a UFC fighter. His name was Waylon Lowe. And I went with him to Balance Jiu-Jitsu, which was a little jiu-jitsu school in Philadelphia. And I kind of just rolled a couple times just as a wrestler, just basically just wrestling jiu-jitsu guys, just trying not to get submitted, this and that. Then someone said, "Oh, you should take a fight." So I was like, maybe I'll take a fight. So then I talked to someone who said he could get me a fight, and he said, "Well, you could go pro right now." I said, "Okay." And so he got me a fight in an organization. It still is an organization. It was called Cage Fury. It was in Atlantic City. So it was there's a show in 6 weeks. I was like, "Okay, yeah, get me on." And then the promoter was like, "Oh, well, we're having a hard time getting you an opponent, this and that." I was like, "All right, well, whoever, I don't care." So he got me an opponent, and he told me the guy's name, and I was like, "All right, sounds good." And it was 6 weeks out, and I never did any striking, no jiu-jitsu, nothing. But at the time, I didn't really even follow fighting. And I just was always such a believer that the wrestlers were the toughest people in the world. And granted, you got to keep in mind, this is 2010, 11, which the wrestlers really, you could kind of go in then and just win with just wrestling. But it was kind of getting away with that. 5 years before that, you definitely could. But in 2011, people were starting to pick up other things, become real martial artists. So, I got the fight. They got the opponent, signed the fight, and I would went to spar a few times with some people that I became friends with. There's a couple Bellator guys, and I would spar just without knowing anything. And I had a guy I guess he was a Muay Thai guy. He held pads for me. Then I put together my corner, and it was just one of my friends, and then these two other guys that I had basically just met. And then I went to the fight, and everyone was surprised that I was taking a fight on such short notice and with no training. But I just was well, I'm not going to lose. I'm so much better at wrestling. That's all I thought of, was I was better at wrestling. And so we went in, and had the fight, and I went in and I took him down right away, and like just basically just held him down and did a little damage, I guess, on top. He wasn't great on the ground. And then the next round, I went in to shoot. The first round was very easy. The second round, I went in to shoot, and I had like a boil and bite mouthpiece, like one you like buy at the store, like that you do yourself. So a boil and bite mouthpiece. It wasn't very good. Like I didn't even know how to like wear a mouthpiece because I never wore one wrestling. And so I had boil and bite mouthpiece. So I shot in, and he threw like a perfect knee, and like didn't really like hurt me, but it like caught me like right in the mouth, and then it knocked out my front three teeth, like in the fight. And I was like, oh man, what do I do? Because they're like, I knew they were out, but they're in my mouthpiece. Well, actually, two were totally out, and one was like bent back. So I spit out my mouth guard, and I kept fighting a little bit, and then the ref saw what happened, so we went to the corner because the one tooth was like kind of hanging there, and the guy like just kind of pulled the third one out. So they put in the mouthpiece, and I finished the fight, and that was the only time I got hit, but it sucked. And then like and I won like probably what they would call like a boring decision. And then like they did like the interview after the fight, and they're like, oh, it looks like you lost your teeth. And I said something like, I was like 27, but I was like totally shot then. That's not like that young, but they're like, oh, look like you lost your teeth. And I said, yeah, I lost some teeth, but fuck it, I'll buy new teeth. And like my friends
with all this money I've just made.
Yeah, well, I think I made like $600. And I had like perfect teeth, like before, like perfect, like my mother was like devastated when she found out. She didn't watch fight or anything, but she was so upset. So then so then I got my teeth knocked out. I had a stupid interview. I won the fight, and that was my first fight, but with basically no training. But I had like a big belief, like I was like, well, I'm not going to get tired, and if he can't stop my takedowns, then he can't beat me. That's really what I thought. And people were like, well, you're going to have to learn some stuff. And I thought at the time, I was like, well, no, because no one will be able to stop my takedowns. I thought so much about wrestling.
Yeah.
But now, since I've been more, the sport's changed so much that you cannot win with just wrestling. Like, yeah. And I had two fights after that, and I won them the same fashion. And then I kind of just like got out of the sport. Because I guess I really didn't train right, or like wasn't really interested in it. I was more interested in like kind of like trying to be famous or trying to make money, and that's probably the wrong approach because it takes a long time to make money and stuff. So, yeah. But really, that's all I ever wanted to do. But I had, so I had a couple fights. I wish I pursued it a little differently, knowing what I know now.
Well, when like that moment you got your teeth knocked out, did you think maybe I looked at this all wrong?
No, not at all. I thought, I was like, oh, we should have got like one of those mouth guards that like they form. I thought if I had a better mouth guard, like.
So even after the fights, you felt the same about it.
Yeah, okay. Definitely.
At what point in time did you realize it probably would have taken a different approach to be successful in?
Well,
because you're heavily involved in it now.
I'm sorry?
I said you're heavily involved in it now. I mean, you coach a lot.
Yeah, but now it is definitely different now. Now I think that wrestling's almost like you have to be good enough at it to not get taken down. But you have to be good at everything now. But back then, it really wasn't like that. People could get by with just wrestling. I kind of thought, I was like, well, I'll develop striking eventually. But like, I didn't really believe in like, I was like, jiu-jitsu doesn't really work. I didn't really think that. But now I like jiu-jitsu more than wrestling. Like if you ask me, like who's better, a jiu-jitsu guy, like a NCAA champion or like a national qualifier who's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I'd rather have the national qualifier who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu because two skills are better than one. But at the time, I was just like kind of naive to the sport, I suppose. And then I started learning a little bit, started training. I moved out to AKA and I trained a little bit and I had one fight out there. And then I was having difficulty getting fights and then kind of just got like, I don't know, like kind of like just sick of like chasing it and not having any money and not really enjoying it. And I started wanting to pursue other things.
Hmm. So you were serious about it. I mean, you went out to AKA.
Yeah, yeah. I went out there. Yeah, yeah. I was serious, but not for long enough.
Yeah. So when did
And I
you?
started. It sounds kind of crazy, but I started when I was like, I probably like, if I were to try to do it again, if you going back in time, I would have tried to fight MMA right after college wrestling. I
Yeah.
think pursuing international wrestling isn't like conducive to like a good career because like that all those years you're pursuing freestyle wrestling, like those skills are not transferable into um, fighting. Where it would have been, you're probably good enough after college. Your wrestling is good enough, even though you get
Yeah.
better at wrestling. It'd probably be better to like have picked up like other skills, like learning how to fight.
Yeah.
So I probably would have done that instead and like use those 3 years. Because then by the time I was done, I was like 27, 28, and that's kind of a little later to start.
Hmm.
And yeah, so if I were to give someone advice, I would say if you're gonna fight right after college wrestling.
Yeah.
Pursue, don't waste 3 or 4 years pursuing, freestyle wrestling.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're either going to pursue that at the international level or fighting at, I feel like
I
that
mean,
takes up a
people
lot
do
of
it,
time.
like Daniel Cormier and Henry. They did it, but Henry was so young by the time he was done wrestling at like 21. But Daniel was older and pursued wrestling for a long time. But this day and age, I think you need to start like learning all the skills younger.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't start even training until I was 27. So that
Yeah,
always is in
I
the
would say
back of
that
my
that's
head.
late.
Yeah. Well, it took, I probably didn't fight till 28, I think, 29.
Yeah,
And it was always in the back of my head that I was too old. So I let it kind of hold me back when it shouldn't have because things change fast. But
yeah. Like I definitely had like a confidence, but like I didn't have like enough desire to be like, all right, I'm gonna be okay with like living on people's couches and not living in a shitty little apartment and you know struggling through like the regional level fight scene for like a couple more years. It was really hard getting fights back then, especially if you
yeah.
had like a background in something. And I just, like I said, I guess I didn't like love it enough. And
Hmm.
like I said, when I got into it, I just wanted to do it because I thought, oh, it's an easy way to make money. But it's
Hmm.
not. It's like one of the hardest ways to make money.
Yeah, making money is not, most people can't make a living from it,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely not. Yeah, yeah. And if you do, you have to really put in a lot of time. But I'm happy I did it. I think it helped with like coaching a little bit and like just kind of like cool experience for a couple of years. But I
For
wouldn't
sure.
say I didn't really have like a fighting career, but
Yeah.
it was interesting.
Well, I feel like it's a life experience people should have. I think it's an interesting experience, but not that you have to, but as a coach, it's, I think, important for you to help relate to the fighters. Or when did you start getting into coaching fighters?
Well, I mean, I really wouldn't say that I necessarily coach fighters. Like I corner a couple fighters. Um, I pretty much only really work with one fighter closely. It's Gregor Gillespie,
Hmm.
and I coached him in college wrestling because I used to coach at Edinburgh University, and I coached him when he was a college wrestler, and we kind of just developed like a really good relationship. And it's I don't really do anything as far as like coaching him to be a good fighter. I'm more like like I think I calm him down. I give like life advice, and we're just like very close. I think he's
Hmm.
like like a brother to me, and I think that's why we're like people always think, oh, you're Gregor's coach. I'm not Gregor's coach. I don't do anything for him. We wrestle occasionally, but I'm more like I don't know. I think sometimes it's just good to have a close friend or someone you like love in the corner.
For sure. That's how when I interviewed Steve Rivera, Frankie's coach,
Yeah, similar
he
relationship.
said the same thing. Like it's wrestling's probably the one of the last things I do for him. It's more of
Exactly.
a
Yep,
friendship
yep.
than anything.
I think that's I think that's a really good analogy. Those comparison, that relationship, because
Yeah.
like if you ask Gregor, he'd say, oh, I'm the most important person in the corner. But
Hmm.
in that day, but leading up to the fight, all his other coaches do a lot more than I do. I don't do anything. But
Yeah.
then, like, there was other fighters that I'd corner over the years, like, good UFC guys but kind of the same thing. Like, maybe you help them a little bit with a technique here and there, but more like I kind of like the mindset approach. Because I did compete at a high level. I just
Yeah.
never fought at a high level.
Yeah.
So competition is competition. Like, I know how to win. I know, like, what it takes to win in high level athletics, but I never fought at a high level.
Hmm. Well, I always say wrestlers have such an advantage going into fighting because you've competed one on one hundreds of times at least, that's
Well,
priceless.
Well, that is the advantage because, like, wrestling, aside from that, maybe you could, like, take people down and dictate where the fight goes, but more than anything, they know how to cut weight, they know how to warm up, they know how to rehydrate. They've done those things like hundreds of times, and I think that that's the best skill that wrestlers have, and just like
And just
knowing how
pressure.
to go with the nerves, yeah, the pressure.
The pressure is by far, I think, the hardest part. For me, it was the hardest part because I wasn't used to that one-on-one competition.
Yeah, if you didn't compete, like wrestlers, like will have probably like 1,000 matches,
Yeah,
from the time they're a little kid.
it's crazy. I mean, my dad was a wrestling coach. My brother wrestled, so I was around it a lot. It was easy for me to adjust to the like culture, I guess, of fighting, but I never competed myself. So that was my biggest hurdle, I would say, is performing on the spot.
Yeah, like I think like winning is a skill. Like you have to
Hmm.
learn how to be able to do that. Even if
Hmm.
you don't have like fighting skills, you can still kind of like manufacture wins if you
For
know how to.
sure. Like Rose, she obviously has skills, but I think her biggest I don't know, she's so good at rising to the occasion and like finding a way to win. She might not be the best at jujitsu, but she would always just pull off a crazy submission, and she is good at that transition in between.
Yeah, and she seems like has a lot of ways to like finish a fight. If you could
Yes.
finish fights, you're always in them, right? Even if
Yes.
you're down the cards, you know how to finish. You can steal those wins.
So, did you ever foresee yourself marrying a fighter, a professional fighter?
Um, no, that's kind of interesting how that all worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the two communities are kind of always side by side, but it kind of works out how you're always seem to be like connected with people within fighting, and it works out well, I think, for Caitlin's career as well, for you to have that knowledge to give her.
Yeah, I think so. She has a bunch of good people around her, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Like I think, like it always sounds like, well, I don't really care how she does. I just love Caitlin just because. Like
Yeah.
that's why it's almost like better that I don't corner her because it's like if she's like, well, I don't want to do this, I'd say, all right, let's get out of here. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Where if you're a coach, you got to be right on them. I think you can't like I don't think that I'd have the right like the right approach with her. Like I wouldn't want to corner her in the fight. As I care about her too much, like just all I care about is her to be happy and to be safe and stuff. I don't.
So you kind of like compartmentalize that in your relationship.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we do a lot of like I work wrestling with her and stuff, like anything she wants. But like I wouldn't want to be like in the corner, like her coach. I think
Hmm.
there's good people around her, and her approach is so good. She's like so focused, and
Yeah.
like, more so than almost anyone I've ever been around.
Oh,
Like
she's a
she's
machine.
like every little tiny thing perfect, and it never gets rattled, and is such an optimist. Like
Now, did you guys have like a conversation in the beginning about that, like that you wanted to keep it separate like that?
I cornered her one time, and it was like early in our relationship. Like we were not even like that serious. Like we
Yeah.
were like, we weren't living together or anything. It was like within
Yeah.
the first year, less than a year, probably like 6 months, and we had a fight, and I didn't really like it, and I don't think she did either. It
Yeah.
was just like, kind of like, it just wasn't for us. There's so much support, and like I would do anything to help her. But
Hmm.
I think that it's better for both of us that it's a little separate, you know?
I think that's good. It's causes problems, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just
Can.
it's that's her thing. You know,
Yeah,
she has good people around her. I think just good to recognize that why change a good thing.
for sure. I mean, especially like at the point in her career that you met her, she already
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
was a well-oiled machine the way things worked. So
Yeah.
if anything,
Exactly.
it's like obviously a positive addition because you understand the lifestyle. I think all fighters have to be with someone that understands the lifestyle because it's not your average way of doing things. But obviously, you've done it before and you've competed at a high level that um, you can understand it and contribute, even if you're not
Yeah.
like coaching. Same like with Gregor, you can maybe contribute like with the mindset or
Yeah. I think so. We do some things. I think I've helped her with like some big job defense stuff.
yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, it's fun. She's it's been amazing.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you
Yeah.
guys. I love Caitlin. She's a beast. She's
Yeah. She definitely is.
definitely
But
doesn't need
it's
extra
fun.
like
Nothing rattles her, and everything she like how I said, like my approach is just, I want to, try to get easy money and be famous. Like her approach was always she just wants to be the best,
yeah,
and and really she really loves training and really loves martial arts and that's how you become the best. If you don't love something, like really love it, I don't think it's
mhm,
possible to be the best at it.
mhm.
Like it's got to be your favorite thing to do. And I
Because
think
there's
that's
more than just the hours, in the technique.
Mhm.
It's more than that. I
Yeah. And she
I was
doesn't
just
do
talking.
like she just trains.
Oh yeah, and
Like
it
you
hasn't
can't mean she's losing weight. Her schedule is the same no matter what.
exactly. I mean, her and Corey are very similar. I
They
think in
are. They're very
their
similar.
approach to training is it's just their life. It's nonstop. That's the way they function, whether they're in camp or not. Really, it's the
I
same.
think the diet changes. I don't know if Corey loses much weight, but I
Yeah,
think for Caitlin, it's just diet is the only thing that changes. Everything else is just her routine.
exactly.
I think Corey's, yeah, I think from the little I know, I think they're very similar.
Yeah, I mean they've. I was just saying the other day how cool it is that like when I moved out here, Caitlin was still in the CFFC. Corey
Okay.
was newly in the UFC. It's just been cool to see that like they both kind of went all the way to the pinnacle of their career kind of
Yeah,
alongside each other, which is
definitely. Yeah.
pretty amazing to
Well,
watch.
we were on the same card at least once because I was in the back. It was in New York.
Yep, in New York.
They because I was cornering Gregor, so I was in the back. I forgot, who did Corey fight there? Oh no, he fought the guy, the funny silly guy.
Oh, in
Corey knocked
Atlantic City?
Walker,
No.
Walker.
Oh, that
Johnny Walker.
yes. Okay, that was the card she was on with him. Okay.
Yeah, they
Oh,
both
that's a
had.
good one.
Yeah, great. Yeah, but I was in the back and watching her fight, and Corey was kind of like warming up, and he's like, "Oh, she's got this." He's really
Who did she
relaxed.
fight?
Jennifer Maya.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, it was good. It was a big win for her because that win got her a title shot.
Yeah, that was a good night,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Redeemed himself after the last trip to MSG. So
What's that?
I said that was his redemption after the last time at MSG, or the first time he fought there, he got knocked out. So
What fight was the? Oh,
that was OSP.
okay. Because I was at that one too, but I don't.
That was a big card. That was actually when Rose won the title the first time.
Oh yes, and it was Jordan.
GSP and
Yeah, Bisbee.
it was a good card, despite
Yeah,
that.
well, they're always amazing. That's what sucks about COVID. Where like there was always 2 fights a year in New York. It was kind of sweet.
I miss it. Like living here has been so nice of being a fight fan, having Philly and AC and New York so close. We'd be
Yeah, you'd
going to
have probably
fight.
4 fights a year that you
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, I miss it. I mean, watching the fight Saturday got me really pumped though. Like seeing the crowd, you forget how much you missed having that.
Weird times.
I
It's
know.
cool that people are getting to fight. I know Corey's had at least 2 fights during all this,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, Caitlin's cranked it out,
That's
and
fine.
probably one of the best years she's had, I think. And
Most of her career has been in COVID.
yeah, and Corey, we've been lucky. I mean, nothing really changed. He like COVID hit like right after he had that health situation where he blacked out.
Okay,
He
yeah.
actually needed time off anyways, so he didn't really get behind that first 2 months, and then he got back to training, moved to a new promotion, and he's had two fights with them
Yeah.
already. And
Yeah, we watched them. We watched just the other night. Um,
yeah,
it was Russian guy or something like that.
yep, that's hopefully the way he can continue to do it every fight. I don't see it.
Yeah, I hope so. That's exciting. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of cool too, like the tournaments. Because it's kind of like just like the best guy advances. No bullshit. Like no,
which is like perfect for him
because
because
wrestling
yeah,
mentality.
he's a wrestler. And we know the way the business goes, but he always had a hard time of the politics of fighting, which is kind of an issue he had in the UFC. So this is kind of perfect for him because none of that other stuff matters really. It's just winning. You
Yeah,
you're gonna
that
fight.
is the one cool thing about that Bellator does. I think those tournaments or Grand Prix, whatever you call them, I think they're cool. I don't really love the announcers in Bellator, but aside from that, because it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think they got rid of one of them.
Oh, today?
That Goldberg. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
he's there
yeah,
anymore. But they
yeah,
have that Mauro Ranallo. I think he used to announce for like RFA.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They have him now, so
Yeah, it's cool. We watched it the other night.
yeah, the big Anthony Johnson and Yoel, I think, is not this weekend but next weekend,
Yeah,
which
that's
I'm
right.
I'm excited to see that fight. So
Yeah, it's a good time for fighting. There's so many different things you can watch.
I know, it's been exciting. And you and Caitlin are still going strong on your podcast, Burning the Boats.
Yeah, we 18 weeks in a row. So yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's pretty good,
Killing
right?
it. I like it. I don't listen every week, but I try to listen when I can. It's entertaining.
It's pretty consistent as far as like I don't know. Where do you look at your analytics on? Do you host yours on like Buzzsprout or something?
I do through my like Squarespace, my website.
Do you get analytics on it, like see where
Yeah,
people are listening and stuff? Yeah, I think that's pretty cool because you see like we have it pretty. You could get pretty granular, like with people. You could see like what cities, like
yeah,
France. So that's kind of cool. But our numbers aren't huge yet, but they're always seem to be growing a little bit. And then the people who like it seem to really like it. Like we get positive feedback, but it's hard
yeah.
to like blow it up because there's a million podcasts, right?
Podcasts are like it has to be like just a passion project. I feel like it's like this is
Yeah,
something
yeah.
I just enjoy doing. I don't think anyone listens to it, but
Well, yeah, I like to see some growth, and I need some like reassurance that people are listening. But I think they are. I think it's doing all right. But
it's good. I mean, you guys cracked me up. I was dying about the story where when you first got your boat and
we
you
got stuck
like bottomed out and were stuck and
shooting
you
off
were
the flare.
shooting flares.
Yeah, everyone laughs at that story. We were on Frankie's podcast a couple weeks ago, and we told that story. They were dying.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
That it needs to
yeah.
be told. I mean,
Yeah, we try to do like some funny stuff. She actually prefers to just like talk about like nonsense, like relationships and like junk like that, rather than just fighting. But I kind of like breaking down the fights. I love doing that.
yeah,
But
it's a mixture. I like having both.
yeah, it's a mixture. Yeah, yeah,
It adds character. I think I always like listening to podcasts because especially if you are into that world and that community, all the fight news already. So it's fun to kind of like get a little extra on top of it to make it interesting. So
yeah, yeah. I
I
think
enjoy
so.
it.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Like
Of
I said,
course. Yeah,
hopefully people are listening, but
yeah. Thanks for having me, and we're always following you guys.
thanks again for coming on the show, Kyle. I enjoyed talking with you. And you can listen to Kyle and Caitlin's podcast, Burning the Boats with Blonde Fighter and Cerm, on any podcast listening platform. I listen to it on Spotify, but check it out. It's entertaining. Lots of funny personal stories and a little bit of fighting mixed in as well. And you can follow us on Instagram at The First Fight. And you can check out our website to check out all the old episodes and the story behind The First Fight at firstfightpodcast.com.